Quick welcome. It's good to see some familiar faces in the audience. We've got some validators in here. We've got some community members. Welcome, Akash community members as well. Really glad to have you guys here. Got Greg representing Akash Network. Welcome, welcome. And we have AI Zorro, aka Hansel, or the other way around, Hansel, aka AI Zorro, here representing Neural Internet and Compute Subnet 27. Quick welcome to you guys. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me. This is super exciting.
Yeah, really exciting.
Right on. Well, I'm sure everyone knows we're going to be discussing decentralized compute here with two parties. I'd like to dive straight into it, but first I'd like to introduce both Neural Internet and Akash. First with Neural Internet. For those who don't know, Neural Internet is an AI R&D DAO created to build upon Bittensor and alongside the Open Tensor Foundation. As one of the first big validators on Bittensor, Neural Internet plays a large part in the network's consensus mechanism and has over 43,000 TAO staked. Close to 900 nominators have delegated their TAO in support of Neural Internet, contributing to the future of decentralized AI. Their flagship product, which we're talking about today, is Compute Subnet 27, built on Bittensor that incentivizes the provisioning of compute on their subnet. Individuals known as miners can provide their GPU's resources to be rented and then are rewarded in TAO. We're joined today by one of the co-founders and OG Bittensor community members, Hansel Melo, or known on X and in the Bittensor community as AI Zorro. How are you doing today? And can you give us a little introduction about yourself and how Neural Internet got to where it is today?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's been a crazy journey, to be honest. I mean, like you said, we were one of the first largest validators on Bittensor, and it's all thanks to you guys, the stakers. I mean, you know, it's an amazing journey. Decentralized AI is something that it's a must for humanity. And obviously the next step, of course, is making sure that we can decentralize the infrastructure that's going to run this decentralized AI. So that's why we're here today, and I can only imagine what the future would bring.
Fantastic. And with Akash Network, Akash is arguably one of the most recognized decentralized compute marketplaces out there right now. Users can deploy servers at some of the cheapest rates you can find in a permissionless way. Trust me, I've tried, and it's amazing. In a matter of seconds, using their token AKT. They've recently reached an all-time high of $2,800 in daily spend across the whole network. And I have a feeling that they'll surpass that shortly after Spaces. And over 164,000 server deployments, which is a true testament to the adoption of decentralized cloud computing. Mentioned in a recent Van Eck report, Akash is positioned as a leading general purpose decentralized supercloud and proponent of decentralized AI. And we're joined here today by the founder, visionary, and face of Akash, Greg Osuri. How are you doing today, Greg? And also, could you give us a little introduction about yourself and how Akash has come to be what it is today?
It's great to be here. Super excited. In the first phase we said about Bittensor. We've been following the project. Been a big fan for about a year now. And Akash, I've been a programmer for all my life. For the last 15 years or so, I've been building open source software, primarily developer tooling of one server companies. And before Akash, I founded Angel Hack. Angel Hack is most known for bringing hackathons to real life, and several countries like 5 days or not to launch Angel Hack. Really started Akash with Angel Hack as a foundation to take developer workflows and optimize them better to be the cloud era. Really, that's how it began, and as we were deploying the solutions, we discovered most compute is unused, and the current infrastructure of the compute is extremely centralized.
Sorry to cut you off there, Greg, but your the background noise is a bit too much. I think it's hard to hear you.
Really? Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. Sounds like Greg was getting his place cleaned. While we wait, Hansel, you only gave us a very brief introduction about yourself. Oh,
Okay,
Greg's
how are we
back.
doing now?
Oh yeah, much better, much better.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
That was
Right,
the vacuum going off.
Yeah.
That was not vacuuming.
Yeah, so take it from the top, Greg.
Right. Yeah. So, I founded Akash and wrote the first line of code for Akash about 10 years ago. And, we published a paper in 2017 talking about how decentralized compute is going to solve the problems of centralization, all the way with resource acquisition, cost, and whatnot. And now in 2024, we are in a situation where the compute that runs the AI, which is GPUs, are incredibly hard to get. And Akash is now the premium marketplace for GPUs and the only place to get H100s on demand to run general purpose compute.
Great. Let's focus in on that. You said that you built Akash as a way to decentralize compute and also to focus on it being the future of compute. We're seeing an acceleration towards compute being this precious commodity. Sam Altman himself has said that the computer is the currency of the future. The centralized control of GPUs has led to the proliferation of permissionless compute, such as Akash and neural internet compute, Subnet 27. Greg, I know you like to say that GPU is the new spice. Where do you see decentralized compute in the future?
So as AI gets more prominent in our daily lives, it's no question that AI is going to get personal. So what it means is to have a sustainable AI, you will have to host your own AI. I think the future is going to be people that use AI own the AI, and the way you own the AI is to own the compute that runs the AI, right? Just like electricity, if you have a sustainable way of producing electricity instead of depending on the grid, you have a lot more control on costs. And the current demand supply curve is so suboptimal that it's nearly impossible to get the chips. And if you were to do anything critical and anything that optimizes for privacy, considering AI is going to be the critical aspect of our lives every day, you have to own the chips, right? And again, when you own the chips, you're not using them most of the time. And if there's a mechanism for you to share your underutilized time in exchange for some economic reward, you can essentially create a network of a peer-to-peer network of folks that own the chips and folks that want to use the chips, right? So I think ultimately it comes down to if there's a compute, if there's a device in the home that's serving some desire of yours, and if there's underutilized compute, that should be part of the grid, and ultimately we as users of AI should own the AI. That's the real vision behind decentralized computing. I think oil came in the middle, and before oil was always spice, right? And without spice, you can't make food in India. It is Indian food, so the notion that spice was flour kind of came out in the perfect timing. You can think of, and Dune release doesn't hurt either.
Oh, so that was quoting about Indian spice. Sorry, I thought it was the Dune quote.
Well, the Dune quote came from Indian spice, but
yeah, right.
Spice was the most valuable commodity before oil. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the whole East India, trading company, which is the largest corporation in the world, went after spice in the 1600s and whatnot. That's how India was invaded. Britain, in fact, America was discovered because they were looking for spice. Right? They just ended up in the wrong island. That's why they call them Indians. But spice was the most valuable commodity before oil, and now it's back.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to throw this question at Hansel here. Greg mentioned that the future of decentralized AI is very personal. Everyone will kind of have their own AI. Hansel, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, to be honest, intelligence is going to be an extraordinarily valuable commodity. I mean, everybody should have access to a machine that could be able to answer any questions, guide them in any decisions in life, and be able to construct anything that they have in mind. I mean, we depend off of experts and entirely human experts. And in the future, we're just going to be utilizing AI because AI is going to have this all-encompassing understanding of the universe. So then, like, is going to be able to excel is going to excel everything at a rate where we can't even fathom. I mean, humans can't even process information like at a rate where compared to AI, and I could only imagine all these exponentials happening at the same time. So like if we could have something like decentralized compute, the infrastructure completely like open to anybody to be able to participate, earn economic rewards, and also at the same time democratizing the access. This is what's going to enable AI for everybody, and in a way where like no government, no company can just turn it off and even censor it for any reason. And that's the most important thing. So I completely agree.
Yeah, so it's interesting because we know that the future of AI is decentralized, or at least that's what we're fighting for right now. The question I think comes up would be adoption. So, Greg, this question's for you. What would be some of the key factors that would drive adoption of decentralized AI and most specifically cloud computing across other industries? And also, how is Akash best positioned to do that?
For adoption, for decentralized or not, a product needs to offer something of value that's easily quantifiable, right? Either you're improving productivity or you're reducing costs. Essentially, they come under two categories, right? And or it's just simply like offering something the market can offer. Right now, Akash is the only place to get H100s on demand for general purpose compute. Right? There's no other network, be it centralized or not. There's no other network that has H100s available. They say they have available, but you go to the website and you try to use them, they're usually not there. On demand, at least, when you get long-term contracts, right? And on-demand access is so critical for numerous types of workloads. I mean, be it a researcher that's just trying to complete his PhD thesis and want some compute and want to run a model, um, do some training or some fine tuning. Two, startup companies that are experimenting, iterating, and with high degree of variance when it comes to what kind of workloads or what kind of load they can expect. Having an on-demand style access gives them the flexibility, and there, so for a startup, flexibility is the biggest weapon, right? I mean, if you have rigid setups so that you can't move, you will fail for sure. So Akash offers a valuable, service, which is access to high-density GPUs that no one else can, and that's driving the growth right now, right? And I think that needs to be the case with any decentralized or decentralized or any solution, as a matter of fact. Now, and how do we do that, right? How do we we went and tried the whole notion of self-hosted, self-custodial hosting. It was attractive to folks that needed or wanted the self-custody for hosting, and there happened to be a small set of crypto folks, right? The moment the use cases expanded to just getting access to high density, the user base of Akash completely shifted, right? And the best part is these GPUs are only available in non-custodial manner. You can get them using other platforms. There's work happening for platforms to use credit cards, but the fact that the first experience is non-custodial opens up other opportunities. And that it's almost like people didn't realize the value of non-custodial until they started using non-custodial, right? So we have some folks that are building on top of Akash, they're building platforms and services on top of Akash. And a big sort of like aha moment for one of these builders, which are traditionally Web2 type builders is, hey, you can build on Akash and you can build an entire business on Akash and no one's going to stop you from doing so. Most people don't realize how powerful that is, because if you try to do that in like a typical, Web2 world where you build on Amazon or you build on Twitter or Facebook, the moment you become profitable and the moment you get prominent, that company that you build on will try to take over the business, either launching a competitive service or acquiring a company. There's really no way you can compete with a large player having a very profitable model based on their platform. There's no way, right? It has never happened before. And Amazon is most likely going to kill you before they can acquire you. And Google is more flexible when it comes to acquisitions. So that's, as a platform builder, that's the reality that you live in. And most people, when they use Akash, don't really see that as a primary value. But once they discover that the permissionlessness and the self-custodial aspect is extremely powerful construct for them to have the confidence to build a business, it becomes a de facto. So it's almost like the carrot is the GPUs, right? And you come for the carrot and stay for the rest. And the rest is the benefits that you get out of decentralization. And it's almost like a benefit that you've realized and you got to live through that to understand. Yes, it's a little harder to use than your typical platforms, but hey, I always have this philosophy of do not build 100%, build 95%, and let the last 5%, leave the last 5% alone, so that smart people that have figured out the 5% will go and invest in your project in terms of time and resources to complete the 5%, and then you can get the customer, right? So almost leave enough room for people to improve your product. That way, people have a way to leverage that opportunity, and smart people will figure it out. And that's why I say, like, close source software, well, you can have fully vertically integrated stack, and there's nothing different thoughts, different points or trade-offs you can think of, like having your only credit card based access to use a product. Yes, you can get adoption very quickly if you do it fully custodial, but you can go fast, but you can't go far, right? Really, with open systems that are open to everybody and give opportunity for people to build on top of it, tend to go much further. And that's why I'm a big believer in open systems. And to build open systems, you need to have a long-term thinking. And I much rather prefer it this way than moving fast and breaking things. And that's the old one.
Right. Yeah. That's that great quote where if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right. And I think it's also great the point you made about those who experience decentralized AI and using your network, they don't realize the benefit until they use it. I think that's also quite an important factor. But also, in terms of adoption, it's ease of use, having it on demand, so anyone can kind of join whenever they want, quite easily, no queues, no waiting. And it's obviously not controlled by a central party. Hansel, I'm going to direct the same question because you can then discuss more about Compute Subnet 27 in regards to the adoption of decentralized cloud computing and how Neural Internet and Subnet 27 has positioned themselves to do that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, just like Greg has mentioned, I mean, AI and intelligence is the perfect product. I mean, there's going to be infinite demand, infinite possibilities, and intelligence, it's in various forms, whether it's text, image, video, audio, and even robotics. I mean, it's just the beginning. So, like, I could only imagine where things will stand a year from now. But from the standpoint of Bittensor, like, it's one of the most important things, because if we want to really fully decentralize AI, we need to have this open infrastructure, right? We want to make sure that every other subnet within Bittensor is built on top of this open infrastructure, right? So then we can enable this permissionless, like permissionless intelligence where anybody can access and be able to build on top of, and not worry about any one government or every one company trying to stop them in terms of what they're trying to build, and even just trying to buy them out. And just like Greg mentioned, like it's hard to really predict where everything will go, but at bare minimum, if we can make sure that this is open, then it would allow anybody to just create value without any limitations. And that's why we wanted to first, start with Bittensor, because it was the clearest opportunity without having to worry about, oh, look, let's mine on these various subnets, but we have to go and gain access to the infrastructure using these centralized providers, right? That's a huge limitation, because these centralized providers can have their own bias, they can have their own motives, and they cannot support. They could potentially not support where we're going in terms of decentralizing AI. So making sure that we built a subnet where all these subnets can be built on top of was crucial. And we wanted to make sure that anything that comes about in terms of Bittensor is just a beginning. We want to make sure that anybody that's going to try to build, they have this opportunity, and it's not limited in any way, especially in this new age. Just like how we've seen where Amazon Web Services dominated the market initially with the internet, where everything was running on top of their servers. The same thing is happening with AI. You could already see Meta's purchased a tremendous amount of H100s. We don't want the same thing to happen, where essentially the most valuable product that we're seeing today, which is intelligence, is running on these centralized providers, these centralized infrastructure. We want to make sure that it's not only open, but we want to be able to democratize the access and enable anybody to be able to create a company and be able to create value without any limitations.
Yeah, that's great. Sorry, Hansel. Just wanted to quickly say we are going to take some community questions as well at the end, and we have a link in the comments. There's Doug who's shared a link, app.slido. You can jump in there, chuck in some questions. We already have some questions going. We'll be addressing these, picking some of these at the end. But I would like to invite Greg. Greg, could we talk about the AKT token, Akash's token? It's used for usage on the Akash network for leasing servers as a tenant, to earning as a provider. AKT is also staked to secure the network and earn rewards. It's used as governance to vote on proposals, one of which I consider quite exciting, which is a proposal for Akash Accelerate, the first summit focused entirely on the Akash ecosystem. AKT is also listed on tier 1 exchanges, such as Kraken, KuCoin, and most recently Coinbase. And it is currently sitting at a market cap of $1.2 billion. Now, you have mentioned that it's great for the ecosystem currently right now, but there are some flaws. You're trying to fix that. Could you talk more about AKT 2.0?
Yeah, to summarize, AKT is the native token for Akash Network. The primary purpose of AKT is to secure the network, Akash being a proof of stake network, and each token plays one vote in the consensus. So without AKT, there is no Akash network, right? So in exchange for stakers staking the tokens, Akash has an incentive, which is you get some tokens as staking reward. And the staking on those tokens are come from a percentage that gets deducted when you pay for hosting, and that's distributed for security and other initiatives, right? So the symbiotic relationship between the AKT token and the network and the usage is the percentage of the fees collected by the network goes back to AKT holders in exchange for security, right? So that's the high-level architecture as to how AKT flows. AKT is also primary way to pay for services on Akash, although Akash supports multiple currencies as of AKT 2.0, because AKT being volatile is not a great currency to pay for long-term resources, right? Because the price may differ during the execution of a lease to what it was when the lease began. So AKT to solve for that, AKT accepts Akash Network accepts any currency, be it stable or be it non-stable as well, and there's a take fee for using a different currency that's not Akash. And with AKT 2.0, we started looking into incentivizing behavior that's beyond staking, right? Because Akash, because high density GPUs are very high demand, it's very hard to get to high density GPUs without proper incentives, because a lot of the people that have GPUs have various offers, competing offers from people that want to get the GPUs, right? Some of them just want to keep the GPUs for themselves. Some of them want to repackage and sell them. So having incentive for folks to put their GPUs, regardless of the volatility in demand, because demand is never linear, right? Demand goes up and down. But supply needs to be linear. It needs to be all available all the time in order for demand to come. So there is an incentive program now that's currently under pilot as part of the AKT 2.0 program, which is effectively, to simplify, it gives you some degree of guarantee payment for your GPUs regardless of service. So, and Akash being fully diluted, I think like $2+ billion means half of the valuation is reserved for incentives. So over $1 billion is reserved for incentives, be it incentivizing supply or incentivizing create and contribution. Like Akash is fully built by the public, and every aspect of Akash is done in the open. There are no private repos under Akash organization on GitHub. It's very, very open. It's fully open source. In fact, we don't even pay for GitHub access because we only pay for private repos. There's no billing in Akash GitHub. So every meeting, every product meeting, every decision, every item on the roadmap is done in the public. If you go to Akash Network GitHub and go to a repo called Community, you'll be able to see all meetings. Every decision is done on record in the public. All the features are built by the public. Akash has about 480 contributors. And there's a community pool with about $20 million as public goods fund, which pays out to people to build on top of Akash. So if you have an idea that you want to build, you can come to one of these community meetings, propose the idea, propose a funding, ask for funding, and you most likely get the funding to build on Akash if it's open source, right? So that way we have a self-sustaining model, right? Doesn't need external funding, doesn't need a VC to come and bless you with money, doesn't need any of that stuff. I think that there's quite a lot of alignment with Bittensor when it comes to who funds the efforts, right? So there's an incentive mechanism now available for anybody to build on top of Akash, as long as it's open source, right? And then the take income came with 2.0, the incentive pool came with 2.0, AKT 2.0. The incentive both for providers as well as sustainability for development came from AKT 2.0. And the multi-currency settlement came with AKT 2.0. So those are the new updates recently.
Yeah, the new 2.0 framework sounds very much like how Bittensor incentivizes their open source development through the subnets. I think that's it's really interesting because it seems to be like the framework that has been adopted as something that's working so far. Mm-hmm. The thing is though, Neural Internet and Subnet 27 don't have their own token, right? And so there is a proposal, Bittensor's Bit1 detail proposal. For those who are unfamiliar, Open Tensor Foundation has proposed to introduce dynamic detail, which involves dynamic staking mechanisms and distribution of tau determined by the market. Now, each subnet will have their own token paired with tau in a liquidity pool, and the emissions that the subnet receives will be determined by the exchange rate of that pool. So Neural Internet's subnet token might be coming soon. Is that correct, Hansel?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of why we wanted to build this open infrastructure within Bittensor. outside of obvious, the target market within the other subnets, but mainly because of the structure of these subnets allowed for the creation of commodities, digital commodities. And one of the most valuable digital commodities is, of course, compute, right? And with the ability to fair launch the token and also allow for anybody to purchase a token, run a validator, to then gain access to the commodity, that was one of the most crucial aspects of the design, because then it enables us the democratization of compute and enables anybody to go gain access to the GPUs, also be able to resell that access to then be able to see monetary gain and enable even more value creation from that point. And that was why, we started with this Subnet 27, and we're still going even to this day. And we're really excited for this update because it is going to enable a tremendous amount of value.
Yes. So you mentioned the update, Subnet 27's most recent update. I guess this is a good segue into the topic of collaboration between Akash and Subnet 27. Can you tell us, Hansel, what does this involve? How are the two entities helping each other out?
Yeah, of course. One of the biggest things, like I mentioned, we want to make sure that this infrastructure is as open as possible. So then the miners that's participating within this network, they can gain access to the resources from any provider, any pool of resources, right? Whether it's centralized, decentralized. So when we were trying to build this, we wanted to make sure that it's compatible with anything, right? So then there's unlimited supply that can be accessed without any limitations. So that was one of the first key points. So with Akash, it made the most sense, especially with the incentive program. It enabled the miners to gain access to GPUs at a very low cost compared to the other centralized providers, especially like Lambda, where if you try to gain access to an H100, regardless of the price that they're saying, you first have to get access to like 20 or 2,000 H100s before you could then start using, which makes no sense, right? But with Akash, it enables the miners to go tap into the H100s, plug it into the Subnet 27, earn even more rewards, right? And then it enables the validators to gain access to even more supply to then go and create more value.
And Greg, what does this collaboration mean for Akash?
Yes, for us, we believe Bittensor. For me, Bittensor, is the orchestration layer for AI. Right? Like the way I look at Bittensor is, you have AI essentially has lots of different pieces together that come, that need to be stitched together in order to, do more. Right? And Bittensor gives you this orchestration layer that, that comprises of different subnets that can talk to each other and create larger systems. That's how I look at it. And every subnet offers something of value that an AI system needs. Subnet 27 offers the spice, the most critical aspect of AI, which is training and inference and hosting and fine tuning and whatnot. So, and we want to support Bittensor mission. I've been not very secret about my love for Bittensor for the last few years, last year more actively so. And the best way to do that is to be a subnet. But instead of Akash doing a subnet by itself, I'd rather work with incredible community folks like yourself that have been involved in Bittensor for a long time. Because again, the saying that, hey, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I believe in that. I believe in bringing smart people together and having them. Your team is extremely passionate, and my first conversation you had with the team was very obvious that you care deeply about decentralization of AI and you care deeply about Bittensor in general. So that was my my takeaway. And if we were to bring Akash to Bittensor, the best way to do that is through your internet. And I stay committed to my promise that we'll do everything possible to give you the compute that you need, right? And of course, we can't. Protocol is neutral, right? It doesn't pick favorites, but what we can do is be a little aggressive in terms of getting you the type of compute that you would need, that you would predict you would need for the next few years. Unfortunately, we have an incredible, incredible incentive budget that's flexible as well. Right? It's not set in stone yet because we're still in pilots. We're still trying to understand how do you prioritize what compute and how do you do that on chain. So during the pilot program, we have leeway for experimentation, and we're and it's perfect timing for neural internet to enable Akash integration, because now neural internet will become one of the key definers of what compute will lead on Akash, along with other partners that are incredible as well. Some of them are listening to this call, so I'm super excited. I think being one of the first key integration points and demand drivers for Akash is going to be critical for the future of Akash as well as future of Bittensor, and neural internet is in perfect position now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as a miner myself, I think this is an extremely exciting opportunity, exciting partnership. This is amazing because Akash, once again, you guys can offer some of the cheapest, or probably the cheapest, rental prices of H100s that you can find on the internet. And as a miner, your job is to seek out cheap compute, and provide that. And I think we're always looking at Akash like we can't, before we couldn't access this, right? This was like the holy grail, the cheapest. It's half the price of what, say, Vast or RunPod would be offering. So I think this is incredible. And I think, Hansel, if you could, for those listening, for the Akash community members who don't understand how this actually all kind of works, and for maybe our own miners, like what does this mean? Could you explain a little bit in detail about the slight technicalities of how would you use Akash to mine on Subnet 27?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, just like how you could be able to go and rent GPUs, let's say on Lambda, RunPod. You can go on Akash, let's say CloudMoss, and be able to specify the amount of GPUs, specify the disk space, and then you gain access to the GPU. And then from that point, you then plug it into the subnet to then see that incentive from the subnet 27, which is for right now is going to be in Tau, and in the future it will be in the subnet tokens. And then at that point, the validators will then start gaining access to those same GPUs that's originated from Akash to then go ahead and try to create value from that point, which is a very positive feedback loop, which can continuously bring more and more value within the network into Akash. And I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, it's totally awesome, man. I think we just got some demo videos for validators. Actually, I see some of you validators here in the audience. We've got that CLI working. It's looking beautiful. It's working perfectly fine, and you guys would be very happy using it to allocate the GPUs and see the amount of GPUs, what models, et cetera, et cetera. You can see all of that within the CLI as well. So super excited. But I think it's time to take some community questions. Let's take a quick look. We've got the Slido open right now. We've got some questions in there. I'm just going to pick a couple at random. And Greg, let's start with you. What is the most critical issue in building a symbiotic system between Bittensor and Akash, in your opinion?
I am not equipped to answer the question. I mean, I would defer that to A0 because they're actively doing it. I provide compute. I don't do the integration.
Right. Okay. Let's hand that to Hansel then. I'll repeat the question one more time. What is the most critical issue in building a symbiotic system between Bittensor and Akash?
Yeah, of course. One of the biggest issue is, of course, aligning incentives, right? We don't want the miners to just plug in any type of GPUs. We want to make sure it's the most capable and powerful GPUs that can create AI and also enable anybody to utilize AI. That's number one. Number two is of course the validation of the resources that the miners are plugging into the subnet, we want to make sure that everything is in tip-top shape, so then it makes sense for anybody to go ahead and gain access to the GPUs and start creating value. So that's most likely the two hardest parts of the integration. And of course, on the technical side, making sure that everything is seamless and interoperable. But yeah, these are the main things.
Great. Greg, I think this one can apply to you because we saw that you had shared a post on X where it's a woman talking and it's like completely, or it's supposed to be completely AI, but it's not her talking actually, right? So one of the questions is, how will open source and permissionless systems regulate use of AI by bad actors? And also, how does it deal with data veracity / deepfake?
No, that's a question that's being answered by lots of people with lots of different ways, right? I don't think there is a single solution to combat deepfake, except there are solutions being developed, right? So the challenge is, how do you know something is a fake when it's getting very, very, very good to create deepfakes, right? Well, provenance, right? Like, how do you know? Well, if you understand where something came from, you'll be able to tell whether it's real or not. So I think that's where crypto also comes and plays an incredible role. But the challenge is getting the adoption from the device. For example, like if I take a picture using a camera, the that very activity should be recorded on a uncorruptible ledger. Right? So if my camera somehow posts or embeds metadata into the picture, that is that recorded on a chain somewhere, and every modification to the picture is somehow saved, and all the way to publishing the picture is also somehow saved. Right? I can see that as a solution, but it's going to be chaotic before we come up with solutions, because there are people working on problem solutions, but no one seems to be taking them very seriously. And also the approaches have high degree of variance. Some are developing browser plugins, and some are developing, you know, more native integrations. But time will tell which direction is going to be a winner. But I predict in 2 years we're going to have. I think this election is going to be a deepfake election, and in 2 years we're going to have this problem so massive. I mean, there will be moments of chaos during this election due to deepfakes. That's my prediction, and that lead to more tighter or more need for problem solutions. Ultimately, I think humanity will figure it out, but it's going to be painful before we figure it out. That's my prediction.
Yeah, it almost feels like the development of AI and like how good it gets is far outpacing people looking for solutions to determine whether it's fake or not. And I guess the solution is to trust the process and let people build the solutions. They will come. But this one's for you, Hansel. I'm new to decentralized computing. What are some entry-level use cases for someone who has a computer at home and wants to participate?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously it depends on the computational power that you're attempted to plug into the subnet or any network to then try to earn economic incentive. And also depends on what demand you can see from that computation. I mean, if it's a regular laptop like a MacBook, I mean, you're not going to really see too much benefit. I mean, outside of the regular use cases that you see today. But if you're talking about something like an H100, I mean, I could tell you firsthand, there's definitely platforms out there where people are paying upwards of $5 an hour just to gain access to these machines, just to try to go create machine learning models, whether for any modality. So it's interesting. It really depends on the compute that the user is attempting to figure out how to monetize.
Yeah, and I think also, like, just to build upon what Hansel said, obviously you can provide your compute to either Akash or Subnet 27. Either way, you can use, you can see which compute, how powerful it is. If it's entry level, then you'll have to determine, you have to find platforms which are going to accept that or need that. But we have a very interesting question here. Seeing how FET, Singularity, and Ocean are working together, I'm sure we've all seen that on X and the headlines today. Can we expect Jensen, AKT, and Tau also to work together? Greg, I think this is more of a joke question.
Yeah, we don't need mergers. I mean, the systems, it's funny because we build open systems so we can build open systems on open systems, right? You don't need a token merger or any other nonsense to work together. And this is the whole thing we're already seeing now. Akash and Bittensor working together, and Jensen, we're good friends with them. I can totally see how they can work with Akash and Bittensor as well. Like really open systems that are built to be open and permissionless don't need permission. Right? You don't need mergers. You don't need partnerships. You don't need partnerships or permissions to use Akash or Bittensor. I don't see like token mergers are interesting, right? Last time something like this happened was between the Keep network and there's another threshold encryption network. I forgot, but that didn't go anywhere, right? So there has not been a successful token merger, in my opinion. And this particular merger is very interesting because it is done with Singularity Net, which I have no idea, honestly, what they do. And I asked, I don't know anybody that knows what Singularity Net does except for AGI and a blockchain, which is very broad. And then you have, Fetch, which is supposed to do agents, but they haven't done anything meaningful, right? I don't see anybody running agents on Fetch, So, and then you have Ocean, which is a data marketplace. I don't know when was the last time you paid for data. I mean, it's a good idea, definitely. Right? I think it's a lot of future. So it's like three networks that have a very ambitious plan coming together, or ambitious vision that have been building, but very little usage. So, and they want to do artificial superintelligence, which is quite the ambition. Right? So, in my opinion, I think the ASI token is trying to compete with Bittensor. I mean, now that because Bittensor is the orchestration layer we're going after, and I think like all the different AI services should, serve up to Bittensor orchestration layer. Akash is now a subnet with Subnet 27, right? And Fetch could be a subnet for Bittensor, and same thing with the OSS, right? It could be a subnet very well. So I would see a future where you have an orchestration layer, when you have different resources in the orchestration layer coming together, like Bittensor is the operating system. Like the thing I love about Bittensor is this, it's like Unix, right? Where you have individual commands that are like subnets that do simple things like input and output, right? Like Linux commands are so well designed, or Unix commands in general. They're so well designed that you have text input and text output. And one output could become the input for another command. Right? It's just a very simple orchestration framework and an operating system. So Bittensor, I see that role in AI, and I think ASI is trying to compete with Bittensor and trying to be this like operating system, which is ambitious. But also the fact that Fetch was Akash has been around for a long time. Fetch has been around for a long time. They recently announced $100 million commitment to bringing compute instead of working with Akash, right? I mean, so there's a lot of this sort of like, I guess, and I had no idea. I mean, I'm not close. I mean, I don't have any opinions on Fetch. I mean, they've been around for a long time, and except the fact that I don't know anybody that uses them for anything. And they pivoted to compute, and now they're merging. So there's a lot of sort of like, I think, experimentation happening. No one can tell you clearly what this ASI does, except for a bunch of buzzwords. So that's where I stand. I mean, do I see a collaboration? Absolutely, between Akash, Bittensor, and Jensen. It's already happening. Do I see a merger? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, agreed. And I think if anyone from ASI is listening right now, hey, just launch a subnet on Bittensor. I think you'll have a lot more fun doing that way. For Hansel, we've got. I'll shoot one more question. For someone looking to build, why choose access GPUs from Subnet 27 rather than directly from Akash?
Yeah,
Well,
no.
I'll have Israel answer that.
Oh, yeah. So you could definitely answer it as well. I was just gonna say it really depends on what you're looking to do. If you're looking to build, let's just say, like a platform where you're trying to monetize the access. I mean, we've structured things in a way where, like, at this point, yeah, it is Tau that's the current token that's being used to incentivize the participation of the subnet. But once we have our own subnet token, then it becomes the barrier to entry becomes a lot lower. So it becomes a lot easier to then get into the network, run a validator, gain access to the resources, and then you can start monetizing it. But if you're just thinking about, let's say, using the GPUs for anything regarding AI, then specifically Subnet 27 is because we've targeted the incentive mechanism in a way where, like, we want to make sure that we incentivize the most powerful GPUs, whether it's coming from NVIDIA or anywhere else, specifically for any operations within AI, whether it's inference, which is utilizing AI models, or training new AI models, which is equally as essential, where anybody can go ahead and create intelligence for any use case. So that's why you could, come into Subnet 27 and start building. But the same I'd say for Akash as well.
Yeah, the way I also look at it is like Akash is a external system to Bittensor, right? It's the only independent system. And if you want orchestration from Bittensor, you probably want to use, not probably, I don't think you have too many other options other than using, neural internet, right? It is native. It is Bittensor native. You pay with the same token that you use other services with. It's interoperable with Bittensor. It's got a lot of very key aspects of it that are very natively Bittensor, right? So if you're building on Bittensor, I don't think you have too many options other than using Subnet 27. If you are now, Subnet 27 is also going to be optimized for the use cases that are heavily focused on Bittensor, I would imagine. So instead of you trying to build a layer on top of Akash that will do something that does what neural internet does, you're better off using neural internet. And also, I would imagine neural internet would be aggregating supply from other decentralized networks as well, and decentralized compute is taking off, right? As much as I don't want to promote my competitors, but yeah, you'll see quite a lot of folks that are doing GPUs now after Akash, and that's good for the industry. Right? I mean, and I would imagine neural internet taking a bigger role in getting you the GPUs that you need that serves and aggregates those GPUs as well, right? And with their own token, they'll be able to incentivize you even further, right? So there's a lot of reasons why you want to use them. The user experience is optimized, right? And that Akash is going to be general purpose, going to be very, like, if you use Akash, the experience, like I said, is very, very self-custodial, and it's not the best UI unless you have a KD token, right? And because we're general purpose, we haven't optimized for a single use case. So decentralized compute with Subnet 27 is going to be more optimized for serving a Bittensor, right? So it depends on what you pay for. Like, people pay for their comfort and their usability, and I think that's one of the key reasons. So correct me if I'm wrong or if I didn't get your point correct.
No, I think that was quite succinct. If anything, yeah, the point was that neural internet or compute, Subnet 27 is an aggregator of compute from different resources, different places, from centralized to decentralized. And so if you are building and you're choosing to access GPUs from Subnet 27, you most likely are also accessing it from a cache through Subnet 27. But yeah, just wanted to say, hey, let's we're just gonna wrap this up, but want to say big thank you, Greg. Big thank you, Hansel. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your insights. Thanks for explaining about everything. Super excited about the partnership. Once again, Akash and Neural Internet / Compute Subnet 27 partnership, which means you can now use Akash servers to mine on Subnet 27. If you want to learn more about how that works, if you have any questions, feel free to join our Discord. We've got answers, we've got information, we've got docs, we've got everything. Whatever you need, we got it. So feel free to come through, and also show some big love to Akash Network. They're going to have their summit soon, which is exciting. I'm hopefully going to attend that if Greg will have me. And yeah,
would love to have you. You kidding me?
And
all you folks.
Yeah, unfortunately, the rest of the NI team comes along with me, so you're gonna have to have space for like 20 people. But
you got it.
Yeah. So thanks again, everyone, for listening, and thanks again. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, night, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Have a good one. Thanks.
It's always GM, so GM everyone.
GM.
GM.
All right, guys. Enjoy.